Hello everyone, this is a not live stream. It would be a live stream if I had lots of viewers, but I don't, and it's going to be me talking as if it was a live stream. So what am I going to be on about? Um, this is probably going to be a little less structured than you're used to. It's not going to be a tutorial as such, but what I want to do is talk about some ideas and hopefully get some feedback. Um, Probably half an hour, maybe a bit longer. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. So strap yourselves in and let's go. So what am I doing? I'm building something based on Lightning payments. So I don't want to kind of prejudice or I don't want to go just yet. I don't want to go into the actual mechanics of this. What I want to talk about is the actual benefits. So um, it's probably imagine if you haven't got a credit card, you can't get one. Imagine if you haven't got very much money. That's not difficult to imagine anymore, is it? Look, see how much money I've got in my wallet. £10. That is enough in the UK to buy me a jar of coffee now. No, seriously, it is. A jar of coffee in the UK, a large jar now, is about £10. And it's also more than it's about the same as the minimum wage. So yeah, it's about an hour's pay to earn a jar of coffee, a big jar of coffee, which is it's gone crazy. But I'm aware that I'm more fortunate than many other people in the world. So um, what I would like to see is yeah, a leveling of the playing field really. And I think if the whole world can participate, I don't I don't think the whole world will ever get on as such because people always have different ideas. But at least if the whole world can take part, then that's got to be a good thing. And at the moment, much of the world can't actually take part. What do I mean by take part? Okay, so I gather is it a quarter of the world is unbanked? Um, and I'm not going to go off on a political rant here, but I could quite easily, but I won't. I promise. But with money, um, especially with the inflation and so on, you don't really want to be holding much cash. Many countries now are trying to implement. I mean, somewhere like Nigeria with the Naira is very draconian. I think you're only allowed to draw $44 out of your bank account. Um, and obviously in the US, IRS inspect you if you make a transaction of more than $600. So um, I think it's nice to have some kind of alternative payment system. That's all I'm going to say. And let's be clear, I utterly hate crypto. Crypto is how do I define a crypto? Crypto is an unregulated security, which is being technical, but it's basically a scam. It's a Ponzi scheme created by companies. Now, people, you might say, "Well, I've heard you talking about Bitcoin before." Bitcoin has got no, there's no CEO of Bitcoin. It's got no offices. Um, yeah, there's some developers who participate in modifying or improving the code occasionally, but that's like think of Bitcoin as like HTTP or HTTPS. It's a protocol. All the other things, the cryptos, are actually mm, investments or wannabe investments. But what you do is you buy you buy £5,000 worth, and then in a year's time it's gone to zero because the people that set it up were scammers and they've gone to prison. That's not just my bias. Um, the chair of the SEC in the United States actually said that Bitcoin is a digital commodity, and the rest are securities. So um, I'm not going to bore you with the details between a commodity and a security, but in the world of finance, there's a massive difference between a commodity and security. Security has to have audited accounts. It has to release 401ks, and it has to do lots of lots of stuff. Whereas a commodity is yeah, And also, it's not illegal. It's not illegal to promote a commodity because a commodity could just be wood or fish or copper. So commodity is like something that's can be swapped in and out for identical versions of itself. Um, anyway, let's talk about code. So you can see on the screen I've got what is it? I'm going to probably disappoint a lot of you because this isn't strictly going to be about Python, but um, okay, let's recap. You're looking at a screen of me developing something. Now, why am I developing it, and why is it? Why are you seeing what looks like the output of a HTTP server for JavaScript or NPM? JavaScript NPM. To be honest, all the NPM stuff is just if I'm using Linux and I try and do stuff with NPM and Node Package Manager, just I don't know. I always end up getting in a lot of trouble with it. But today things have gone okay, and I've got NPM. I got installed HTTP. I'll tell you what. What have I been? I've been doing some stuff basically. I'll own up. I've been doing some stuff with a lot of help from chat.openai. Let's see what I did exactly. Let's fix Python website. Maybe I got it here. I can't remember. Fix Python code. How to I had it there. Sorry. That's why this is a not live stream, because if people were watching this live, they'd probably be messaging or going off and clicking on other stuff, watching cat videos or whatever. Here we go. So HTTP server, NPM. Right, I'm going to zoom in on this because there's nothing worse than watching a video where the font is too small. And I've had people now just say, "Can I make the font bigger?" because they want to watch it on their mobile phone. If that's fair enough, if if you've not got a computer or laptop, whatever. So it does make making videos more difficult because yeah, it's quite awkward to work when you've got everything really in your face, and one little scroll of the mouse, makes a huge difference. But anyway, npm install -g. The G flag installs a package globally so that it can be used from any directory. So yeah, I'm pretty new to JavaScript. Has always kind of phased me a bit, to be honest. But then I bought a book. Uh, no, I bought the book. It was okay. I did some examples, but I just find, I don't know about you, but I find the difference between doing a book with doing tutorials from a book where you're just doing show dialogue and making alerts pop up, and then you're making an array and inner HTML, select options, JSON. So yeah, what I probably should have done was just bought. This was an amazing first book. I really, really like these in Easy Steps books. If you're new to a subject, they're really cool. What was I saying? Yeah, so JavaScript always just looked a bit messy and looked like hard work to me. Not that I'm afraid of hard work, but it just looked like the reward for your hard work was not. You put a lot of work in and you got a little result. You just want to make one little button and do something, but then you have to write that much code, and it's just anyway. That's HTTP server, so that's what I've got running in the background. So you're probably thinking, hang on, you started off talking about payments and money, and then you went off about crypto and right. Yesterday, so it's raining outside, by the way, so I'm not kind of like some sad person who's on the computer on a lovely sunny day. Although we're in England in the summertime. I don't know what the temperature is. It's not. It's I know there's all the global warming stuff, but here we go. 19. Look, 19 degrees. So 19 degrees and raining. Micropayments. So I'll get to the point in a second. It doesn't matter. Yeah, okay. It is Bitcoin underneath, but that doesn't matter. It's like a bearer instrument. So if you are interested, then this is obviously the book to get. It is free. It's under Creative Commons license. You can download it and read it from GitHub and everything. But I think there are certain books that you always just want a copy to own forever. So yeah, that is basically, if you're only ever going to buy one book about Bitcoin, then that's probably the one. I'm not just here to show off my books, by the way. This is going somewhere. So yesterday, which was the 6th, 7th of July, something like that, 2023. I think there was an announcement which I think was very significant, almost significant in the world, but nobody knows it yet. So I don't know if you know, but with the HTML codes, there's an error code 402. And this has been kind of lurking in the background. And it's never really been. Oh, sorry, my let me just I can just zoom in on that. There we go. HTTP 402 payment required is a non-standard response status code that is reserved for future use. This status code was created to enable digital cash or micropayment systems and would indicate that the requested content is not available until the client makes a payment. So what does that actually mean? Right, firstly, let's completely I'm not going to talk about CBDCs and central bank digital currencies because if I start on that, then we'll be here forever. Very, very bad thing. If you've not heard of central bank digital currencies, whatever country you live in, there's actually a website called. I'll come back to this in a second, but if you go to CBDC tracker, and then you might think, oh, I'm 18, this doesn't matter, or you might think, oh, I'm 65, this doesn't matter. Yeah, no, trust me, it will matter. It will matter to all of us within about 5 years. And it's a way of enforcing people's enforcing tax collection, travel restrictions, food restrictions. It's a way of controlling what people can spend their money on. So yeah, CBDC tracker, and yeah, there we go. CBDC tracker, and it shows you all the countries of the world where a digital currency is either cancelled, which is great to see. Tanzania, we like you. Ecuador, we like you. Hmm. Funnily enough, I don't think they've left El Salvador blank, which is the one country in the world that's actually using the proper. Well, it's not a central bank digital currency because it's Bitcoin. So El Salvador has made Bitcoin legal tender, and there's a place in Switzerland also called Lugano, which is kind of a district or a region where I believe it's legal tender as well. And I think there's mention that I think it's the president of Madeira is also. It's not legal tender, but he's really kind of lining up to do something with it. So anyway, central bank digital currencies. It's basically the government telling you what you can spend your money on, and it's also the government. And central bank equals government, doesn't it? The two are so linked. I know in the UK, the Bank of England is supposedly independent from the government, but Does anyone really believe that? I mean, the two go hand in hand. The government is reliant on Bank of England to buy their bonds. Because the government issues bonds, which is basically a bit of paper saying we'll pay you back a little bit each year. Then the central bank buys them because they're really lucrative and it's a guaranteed income because governments are meant to be a really reliable source and they should never default. And the thing is, if a government was ever going to default or struggle to pay back something, it would just issue more bonds, and then the money it gets from those bonds, it would use to pay back the previous bonds. So yeah, it is like it's like a ring buffer, but it's just getting progressively worse because the debt's getting bigger and bigger and bigger. You know, like how people with credit cards kind of get a second credit card to pay off the first credit card, and then after 18 months, the second credit card needs paid, so then they get a third credit card, and it only ever ends in bankruptcy. But what is so bankruptcy is actually when kind of your debts get called and then you get shut down. That wouldn't ever happen with governments, but they are insolvent. So if you're interested, look up insolvent or insolvency, and then look up bankrupt and bankruptcy. Insolvency and bankrupt, they are specific terms. Anyway, this is all background really to you think, well, hang on, what's this got to do with Python? What's this got to do with even JavaScript or anything? Okay, yesterday the error 402, which has basically been sat on a shelf, a metaphorical shelf, should we say, waiting to be famous. It actually became a real thing, and if you've been here we go. So if you've been watching my LangChain videos, so LangChain is basically a really good way to control or to schedule and make decisions and run agents with OpenAI. So yesterday, LangChain L402, Lightning in 2 days ago. So error 402, which is basically the part of the HTTP which is going to be made active by working with micropayments. So AI for all, powering APIs and large language models with Lightning. So let's dissect that. We all know, well, hopefully we know what AI is. With AI, really, there's large language models. So you'll often see AI, but also you'll see LLM, and then you've got kind of the image stuff, which you may see diffusion. So you've got LLM, which is a language model. You've got diffusion, which is the image stuff. But what we're talking about here, or we're going to be reading and dissecting here, is the large language models such as ChatGPT, because ChatGPT is a large language model, LLM, and this is what this article's about. So what I'm going to do is just try and make myself a bit smaller, like Alice in Wonderland or something. There we go. I'll just read a bit of this and then I'll kind of give my thoughts on it, and then I'll actually link this up with what was going on in the background on the terminal screen at the start. So today we're excited. So this is a website called Lightning Engineering. If you're familiar with the 7-layer OSI model, you'll know that kind of, well, the 7 layers, starting from the physical layer, going all the way up to the application layer. Obviously, you've got data, network, transport, presentation, etc., etc. With Bitcoin, if you ever hear somebody like Michael Saylor speaking, he'll often talk about kind of 3 layers. So you've got layer 1, which is the base layer of Bitcoin, with the transactions, which are very robust. You get a new block every 10 minutes. But waiting 10 minutes to pay for some coffee with Bitcoin and waiting at the till for 10 minutes so that they can check your payment's gone through. And in fact, it's not even 10 minutes, it's more like 6 lots of 10 minutes, really. A transaction's considered to be really secure and really robust and confirmed after 6 blocks. The basis of that is that try and unpick the Merkle tree of yeah. What's the Merkle tree? So that's like a bunch of hashes two hashes that get hashed into a hash above that, and then it's like it's like it's like the roots of a tree. So the Merkle tree just goes all the way up, and then you've got a hash of of the 2 hashes below that, and those 2 hashes have 2 below that. Yeah. Anyway, after 60 minutes, that's kind of so. If you ever sent a really big transaction, you're buying a car or something with Bitcoin, if you're allowed to, if the government haven't. So then you would. That is kind of the. I think it's like the accepted time span of when a transaction is really has been confirmed by all of the network, and it's not going to get undone, so to speak. Yeah, if you buy a car of Bitcoin, it's 6 transactions, so 6 lots of approximately 10 minutes. Every block is approximately 10 minutes. It depends on how long it takes the miner to solve the problem. But on average, it's 10 minutes, and yeah, it could be 3 minutes, it could be 17. It does go up and down quite a bit. But okay, so large language models with Lightning. So Lightning is built on top of the base layer. So Lightning is and again, this is all fairly new to me, so this is just kind of my understanding of it, and don't take it as gospel. I mean, please do read it for yourself. As with everything, it's one of the mottos of Bitcoin is don't trust, verify. So what it means is don't just trust that something's been a transaction's happened, or don't just trust that an exchange has got your Bitcoin. So you want to run a full node, you want to verify the blockchain, and you want to know that there really are 797,000 blocks. And the more people who are verifying just enforces the security or the consensus security. I'm getting mixed up with the terminology here, but so we've got LangChainBitcoin, a suite of tools that enables LangChain agents to directly interact with Bitcoin and also the Lightning network, including 2 main features. So we've got LLM agent Bitcoin tools, a series of tools that leverages the newly released OpenAI GPT function calls to enable developers to create agents that can hold a Bitcoin balance, in brackets on-chain and Lightning, receive Bitcoin on Lightning, and also directly drive with an LND node. And also there's a Python wrapper. So after how long have I been talking? 23 minutes. So finally, if you're here for the Python content, after 23 minutes, we've hit Python. So I know this is a Python channel, but sometimes the world is bigger than just Python, and I've kind of realized that recently as well. So Python can do amazing things, and to be honest, Python is almost the lingua franca now of AI. So yeah, Python is I would imagine it's only going to become more and more required in the near and mid future. Obviously, in the long term future, in 10, 15 years' time, well, who knows? It's probably we'll all be programming computers in natural language, and really we won't even be programming. We'll just be saying, write me some code to write me some code to make an autonomous car. Yeah, whatever. So what we're looking at here is the agent. So an agent is basically it's like a little LangChain object which controls, which goes off and does stuff. So it kind of, it's like the brains and the decision making of LangChain. So LangChain is the framework which controls. In general, it's probably mostly used for. So far, I've seen it used for like querying PDFs. It can talk to a database, even an on-premise database. It can, to be honest, yeah, it can do some sentiment analysis. If you go to LangChain's site, there's about 11 specific things which kind of it does especially well. So L402. So if you hear of L402, what that's 402 refers to basically the error code which has been reserved all this time for online micropayments, and Python wrapper enables LangChain to transparently access 402 payment metered APIs. So what does that mean? L402 payment metered APIs. In fact, this is really good. I've only installed Opera Day. I'll talk about that more in a minute. Hi, I'm Arla, AI powered to boost your web browsing. I'll answer your questions, explain things to help you while you browse the web. Before you need to sign into Opera. Let's not. I don't want to do that right now. So if you want to, I can see. Well, obviously there's way more uses than I'm ever going to imagine. But the uses, as I see it, with my kind of simple mind, is payment metered APIs. So at the moment, if you want to use Rapid API, say for instance you're interested in, I don't know, airplanes, and you want to use Flight Tracker, and then you want to write, yeah, or many things you have to pay, or especially like real estate. And quite often you have to pay a lot of money, and you have to sign up for like a 12-month subscription, and sometimes it's sort of $5 a month, or $5 a month, and you have to sign up for 1 year, so that's $60, or it's say $30 if you just do it in a one-off payment. So a lot of these APIs are obviously really expensive. So that's kind of really, APIs really are kind of like the subscription model, aren't they? Whereas these L402 payment metered APIs are more like not the opposite of a subscription model. So it's more like pay as you go. What's the benefit of that? Well, depending on which country you're in the world, approximately, is it 2 billion, 3 billion people in the world don't have a bank account. But like much like me, I expect most of the world has got a. Is that about 85% of the world uses Android phones? I don't want to upset any Apple people. Well, I do, but so as Michael Saylor always says, as long as you've got a $50 Android phone, which probably a lot of the 2 or 3 billion who don't have a bank account, I suspect they've probably are able to, have now got have now got an Android phone from probably a questionable retailer. But yeah, and obviously, even when phones are no longer kind of fashionable, if they've got a cracked screen, and even a really old Android phone, it still works, and you can still install stuff on it. So as long as you can install and go on the Android store, so really and also with an Android phone or any phone, you don't have to have it on subscription. So depending on what part of the world you're in, if you can get access to a phone, even if it's pay as you go and you have to go down to the shop in your town or city and put some credit on it, or you can get, if it's obviously you got wireless, and you can get access to free Wi-Fi in I don't know, even McDonald's in Chile or say Turkey or wherever. Thanks for that's received. Somebody just sent me 100 Satoshis. That's mm, um that's about 3p. I'll talk about these. So Satoshis are the small unit of a Bitcoin. So how a penny is a small unit of a pound. A cent is a small unit of a dollar. A Satoshi is a small unit of a Bitcoin. The slight difference in that a penny or a dollar or a cent is like 100th, whereas a Satoshi is it 1/10 millionth, I think. So Satoshi is a really small amount, which is good because it allows you to then do these micropayments. Because you wouldn't want to be sending 0.237 of a whatever the particular token or unit was. You want to send 1 or 2 or 3 or 4. I mean, once you start using floating point numbers, even with computers, floating point numbers is, you may know, are bad news. So a floating point number is, if you don't know, a floating point number isn't always guaranteed to be the same. So if you divided kind of like if you divide 2 divided by 3, obviously we know it's 0.66 recurring. But to a computer, it'll be 0.666666666665132. So eventually, a computer just either rounds up or rounds down because it can't go on forever. Depends on how much the memory allocation, all that stuff. Yeah, computer science professor would explain that better than I just did. Sorry about that. So you can get what are called Bitcoin wallets. Just go on, well, Android, Google Store or whatever it's called, or the Apple Store, and anybody can download a Lightning wallet. So what is a Lightning wallet? A Lightning wallet is basically a bit of software that knows how to communicate with the Lightning network. The Lightning network is basically some companies who, or not necessarily companies, it's again, it's people in the world who've got, even people with a Raspberry Pi. I don't actually run a Lightning node at the moment because reasons. But no, it's actually because I haven't got the time or the competence really just to get too deep into actually running a Lightning node at the moment. All the funds, because you have to put something called liquidity on it. So you have to basically load some credit onto your Lightning node so that you can participate in the Lightning network. And here's the irony. There is not that much profit in running a Lightning node. Why is there not much profit in running a Lightning node? Because the fees are so low, which is complete opposite to Visa or MasterCard or whatever, which are like the fiat overlords who. And also, how long does it take a transaction to get confirmed or to pay to finally settle with Visa? It's like if you buy something in the middle of this month, it will get kind of it could be like 4 weeks before you end up having to pay for it and before it all gets kind of settled. So Lightning payments are instant. The moment you send those Satoshis, that payment, that those Satoshis have left your wallet and they've effectively reached the recipient. So that's instant payments. And if you ever watch Michael Saylor, he'll talk about transactions at the speed of light, which if you ever check, you can check how long it takes for packets. You can do like a TTL ping test to Australia. I think that may go via satellite. That's not always the best test, but if you choose 2 continents that are linked by lots of fiber, like Europe and the US, yeah, it's. I'm not saying it's the speed of light, but it's not far off. So if people say you can make transactions at the speed of light, it's close enough. I think when you're talking milliseconds, I don't think it's really worth getting into an argument about, is it? You're talking milliseconds for an instant transaction compared to, well, like, um, whatever you pay for in the conventional money system is never that quick, is it? Um, especially with all the security checks. Again, don't get me started on that. Do you really think these security checks are for our benefit? No, it's because the banks are incompetent, because their system is flawed, and it's because they have to kind of check everything because their system's got, it's like a Swiss cheese with all these holes and problems. Lightning doesn't have those problems because all this is run based on public key, sorry, public private key encryption. So you generate a private key that stays on your computer or in your head. You give somebody your public key, and then they can use your public key to verify that the authenticity of your transaction or of the sender. So it's verify, don't trust is always the thing. So right, I've talked quite a lot really. So the 402 L402 is a protocol standard for payment metered APIs explicitly designed to fit neatly into the existing HTTP 402 payment required status response code. So again, a lot of this is not actually new technology. It's just kind of now being used properly. And again, Lightning's not new as such because it's running on top of Bitcoin, which started in 2009. So it's running on top of so Bitcoin's 14 years old. Admittedly, the Lightning protocols are newer, but it's still running on top of Bitcoin, which is 14 years old. It's running on top of HTTPS, which is, I don't know how long it holds that, 1998, 80s, whatever. So 402 is, say, for argument's sake, we'll say that's 30 years old. Bitcoin's 14 years old. So all these things have all been kind of waiting in the background. And now we've got LangChain, which is built because of OpenAI, GPT, really. Without OpenAI, I don't think LangChain really would have become so popular so quickly. I think that's fair to say. I'm not dissing LangChain because I think LangChain is amazing. But this isn't even specific to LangChain. So let's have a look at let's look at some real examples. So I've come on to, I'll talk about Alby in a minute. And at the end, I'm going to show you the code that I've been working on today, which I thought I was kind of just going nowhere with it, but I got it working and then I just thought I'd make this video. So web enabled Lightning. Sorry, I've lost my flow a bit. So this is I'm not even going to read out the URL because that was gobbledygook almost, isn't it? But yeah, the other thing that's just reminded me. Obviously, with Mr. Musk and his purchase of Twitter, it kind of ruffled some feathers, and I'm not here to give my opinion on that. But however, Nostr is notes other stuff transmitted by relays. And again, it uses public-private key pairs. You create, you generate your private key, you keep that, and then you issue your public key, and that's what other people use to talk to you with. And it's all run on a decentralized system, much like Bitcoin. So, and it's open source, much like Bitcoin. So, Nostr, if you haven't used it, it's not that difficult. I kind of ignored it for a while. And also, sometimes if something's really talked about or really fashionable or trendy, I just think, oh, I don't want to. That just sounds like a craze or a fad, and it will die down. To be fair, I was probably guilty of that with Bitcoin, but It's not going to die down. It's not a fad, and it's here to stay. And the more you learn about it, the more you realize that it can be used almost everywhere. It's going to help people almost everywhere. And just the amount of open source developers that have invested in their own time without any funding or very little funding to actually make amazing things. And this is just ballooning. And so Nostr, you can send payments over Nostr, which is amazing. So if you don't know Nostr, it's like a bit like Twitter. So if you message someone and you say, "Oh, I'm launching this charity project and I'm going to be helping, and I need to buy some food for this charity event or whatever," or I'm in Africa and I need some money to put up some solar panels to help this school in Africa or whatever. As long as you've got your Nostr address on your Nostr profile, people can just send you Satoshis, which they just so mostly it works with the easiest way to do it is with QR codes, but also now it's being linked with email addresses. So, for instance, if somebody wanted to send me some Satoshis, which are small units, very small, very small units, divisions of Bitcoin, then what I would do is I would just say receive, and then it generates a QR code. So if you want to send me some Satoshis, you could probably scan that. And or I don't know if you saw that just there, Bashful Opera 44 at walletofsatoshi.com. So don't store a lot of credit on there or funds. So at the moment I've got $12 on there. And that's enough just to send people tips, or it's almost like a circular economy because, for instance, Bitcoin Magazine, they give you Satoshis for reading their articles, and they're not being totally altruistic because in between many of their articles, they've got adverts, and they're like the Google adverts. So yeah, what was the saying? Beware of Greeks bearing gifts. So not everything that's kind of giving free money is always giving free money, and that's the point with micropayments. The suggestion or one of the ideas out there is actually that if you're a company, you can actually pay people to visit your website and look at your products, rather than I'm a company and I sell shoes. So I give money to Google or I give money to YouTube, and then they advertise my company, and then the customer buys my product or comes to my website but doesn't necessarily buy anything. If you're the customer and you visit my website and I give you Satoshis, I'm giving you an incentive to come and visit my website. So it's cutting out the third party. So you get some credit for visiting my website. I get viewers, potential customers. So it's just the two of us. We're effectively sharing the wealth, and then Google and YouTube and whoever can just, yeah, they'll have to, yeah. So yeah, Bitcoin Magazine, if you read lots of articles, which they are interesting, as I say, they've got adverts in between lots of the articles. So I've got I don't know if you can read that. So that's 37 cents, 0.37 of a dollar credit from reading articles. But I would read them anyway. Eventually, all that credit builds up, and say I've got about $12 now in Satoshis, which then I can use to spend online. If I want to, I could hire somebody to make me some logos or for my website, or I could send some of that from my phone to somebody who's on Nostr. So it is a very circular economy, and it's cutting out Visa, the traditional banking system, the governments, and obviously there's still something called KYC. So if you're buying Bitcoin to start with, then you have to hand over your bank account details to like a registered exchange. I can recommend if you're in the UK. There's one based in Isle of Man called Coin Corner that I can really recommend. You might have seen they do a Bitcoiners podcast. Um, I really wish them well with that because it pains me when I hear the idiot politicians in the UK trying to call their central bank digital currency. They're trying to call it Bitcoin, which um, a nasty government trying to make their nasty idea seem more popular by making it sound like something that was created not for profit. It was created to make, you know, like people's lives better without being screwed by the banks. So yeah, I hate that word. I hate that word Bitcoin when it's used as a possible name for a British central bank digital currency. So that's why I like Coin Corner because they're trying to almost take that word or have it first. So yeah, good luck to Coin Corner. Right, so I've been talking for a long time, so let's actually show you some code. So this is not going to be Python, but as you've just seen, Python, obviously, Python is not going to go away anytime soon because of LangChain, L402, ChatGPT. And if you want to do something with LangChain, at the moment, you're probably doing it on your laptop, and then you write something in LangChain, which then makes a sequence of conversations or decisions, and then basically gives ChatGPT instructions, and then depending on what ChatGPT sends back, it then makes further decisions. So it's basically schedule. It's automating a lot of things that you based on prompts and responses. It's automating lots of things that you would have to do manually if you were doing it sat at a keyboard using ChatGPT just like that. So, but once LangChain, if you develop something with LangChain, you can then, obviously that's Python, but you can put it on a server. Now, at the moment, you probably wouldn't want to do that because if you write something in LangChain, and then you could well, you could either use Streamlit, Gradio, or JavaScript, HTML, put a web front end on it. People make it internet facing, and then people can come and use it. But it's going to cost you money every time they come in, use your site and do a search or try and talk to ChatGPT or talk to your mate. If they type a question into your website and then they click submit, then that then goes off and makes a call to ChatGPT, and then it gets information back, and then LangChain does some other nice clever stuff, which is really cool. But each time it's costing you money. So loads of people would visit your website, but you're increasingly getting poorer because they're costing you money. So that's not sustainable. That's not a good business. Eventually, you're going to end up penniless with a really popular website, but um, or medium popularity website, or probably not even popular at all because people will just really milk it and then go elsewhere when you've gone bankrupt and you stop paying the bills, and then your website's bad gateway. So what you want to do is do something with LangChain, have it running as like the back end on your web server, put a front end on it, and then you want to take micropayments. So micropayments, L402, you take Satoshis from people around the world, and how do they send you? Well, we're going to call it money, Satoshis. So um, there we go, 100 sats. Um, what you need to do is you need to come on WebLN guide. In fact, if you need to go off and have some tea or go to sleep, this is where you need to come. WebLN.guide. And these are the examples that I've been working on today. It's all quite new to me. I did struggle, so I'll talk about the struggles I had. I had struggles with trying to establish whether. So I'm on Linux, Ubuntu. No, sorry, Linux Mint. I always end up calling it Ubuntu. To be honest, I don't really care about what color the desktop wallpaper is or what the what the toolbar looks like because I don't really do any of that. If you do, that's fair enough. But I guess there might be slight different. I mean, Ubuntu and Linux Mint, same sort of package management and everything anyway. So that's all I really care about. Okay, so WebLN. Oh, let me demonstrate what I've done, and then if you're still interested, I'll explain how I did it. So, no Python yet, but just let me just move my head. I might have to through the magic of, there you go. Suddenly started looking the other way. So I've written or I've kind of copied and pasted a bunch of code together and got this working, which I'm quite happy about. I kind of started this from scratch. And then I ended up, who have I got to thank for this? getalby. I think it was Rene at getalby. Let me just I do need to give some credit for this. So I think it was Rene. At getalby. I know I'm searching for this a really odd way, but hang in there. Yeah, Rene Aron. So he's on Twitter. Rene Aron. And there we go. GitHub. So Rene Aron. Passionate about building software. That's good. Rene Aron at getalby.com. So with Rene's, with bits of, actually no, I struggled with building something using the kind of just from the documentation. And I don't think that's criticism of documentation. I think it's probably a criticism of my lack of knowledge. This is like day 2 really for me of Lightning. So let's go back. With Rene's site, let me show you. I don't know if I can find it. What was it? I think it was called 20. There we go. 20uno.net. So WebLN experiments. Yeah, check this out. So I've already installed something called Alby. And Alby is an extension which you can get for your browser. If I click on it, I'll cover that more in a second. So Alby is basically it's like a wallet for your browser, and it you have to set it up with obviously username, password, make it secure, and don't obviously store too much kind of credit on it. So that's why this is all about micropayments. You wouldn't want to be, one Bitcoin is worth $30,000. So I think some people maybe think that you can only buy Bitcoins in multiples of Bitcoin. So maybe that's why all the people started buying all the shit coins, was because one Bitcoin seemed really expensive. But there's no, that's like saying I can't think. That's like saying like a house is made up of lots of bricks. So if you only wanted a few bricks, you don't have to buy a whole house. That's a really bad analogy, but there we go. Alby. So getalby.com. You need to go there, get the wallet. If you've used some of the ship coins, you might have heard of MetaMask, which is, yeah, don't even go there. But this is a wallet which securely allows you to, and again, it's all used in public-private key encryption. So WebLN.20uno.net. You can read more about it. There's different ways of paying with Lightning. The common way is that you ask to buy something from someone, and then they create an invoice. And they generate an invoice, which is basically a Lightning address, which you then get as a QR code. You scan it, and then your phone sends some of your Satoshis to the address represented by that QR code. But more often now, there's increasing usage of an email address which represents your Lightning address, if that makes sense. So, for instance, here, René at getalby.com, behind the scenes, that will get converted to a Lightning address. Fetch using a Lightning address. There you see the Lightning address. So, like an email address, but for your Bitcoin, a massively simpler way for anyone to send you Bitcoin instantly on the Lightning network. So if I wanted to get a Lightning address, and basically what you need to do is get the app of whichever. I mean, I'll be I can vouch for them. Wallet of Satoshi I use. I don't know about all the others, but any company that is kind of Bitcoin only, the unethical scammers tend to go towards shitcoins. Because there's more quick money to be made. For a start, they're newer, they're unproven, there's more hype. Bitcoin's obviously 14 years old now. People think Bitcoin's expensive because it's $30,000 for one Bitcoin. There's a lot of ignorance still, and also there's a lot of government propaganda because governments feel threatened by Bitcoin because it's not inflationary, and governments are petrified of that because governments obviously printing money, and governments like to print money because they have to pay their debts, because and the debts keep getting bigger. So the only way to pay bigger debts is by printing even more money. And obviously governments like going to war because their friends make tanks and guns, so they have to keep their friends happy. Anyway, download one of these wallets. All of the stuff I'm doing, you can also do on your mobile phone. So just because I'm doing it here in my browser, it doesn't mean you have to. Oh, that's Coin Corner. That's the one I'm registered with in the UK. BTC Pay Server. That's really good if you're like a merchant. If you're a merchant, you can actually, you can kind of accept Satoshis or Bitcoin, and you can accept all that on your website, and it's all kind of Lightning behind the scenes. So that's, BTC Pay. You can have BTC pay directly to your Lightning node. So if you run a Lightning node, you have to put, it's called liquidity. You have to put credit on it, basically. And I'm quite skint at the moment, so I think to make it worthwhile, the more liquidity you have on your node, the more popular it is, and then the more used it gets. And I just can't afford to put £100 of credit onto a Raspberry Pi, and then obviously I'd need to make sure I'd done everything properly, and I just haven't got time because I need to focus on doing code rather than editing config on. Although I do, and like to keep my hand in, but it's not really. I don't think it's the best use of your time if you're always tinkering with a Raspberry Pi, and then it's quite easy to mess stuff up. And then I've already got it running as a Bitcoin full node, and I don't want to mess it up. And I don't want to have to then start all over again. And the Raspberry Pi is quite sought after, and they're quite out of stock these days. So I don't really want to blow it up or mess. Or anyway, you get your Lightning address. Get your Lightning address from one of these companies. Once you've got a Lightning address, people can send you money just by sending to your email address. Like an email address, but for Bitcoin. Massively simpler way for anyone to send you Bitcoin instantly on the Lightning network. Let's go back, and I was going to show you what I've been doing. So so thanks to René at getalby, and I'll show you this. This is the index HTML, and then I'll just show you the JavaScript in a second. Okay, so let's just I'll just move that across. A lot of this was yeah, so that's CDN. The bootstrap is to make the confetti work. So all that I kind of copied from the 20uno.net. Shamelessly copied and pasted that from the page we were just looking at. Sorry, I just spilled some coffee and it's kind of gone all over. Right. Here we've got a button which says get info, and we've got another button which sends a payment. You'll see what they are in a minute. Just quickly look at the JavaScript, and then we'll come back and look at them both once I've done the demo. But got some functions here. One function is get info. Another one is show result. Another one's celebrate, which does the confetti. We've got one called key send. We've got one called enable. So WebLN. If you don't take anything else from this video, other than 402 is the error. Well, it's not really an error. It's not a full. Well, it is an error, but it's a status code really, because it doesn't mean your program's gone wrong. It just means you're waiting for some payment, micropayment. What's a micropayment? It's a Satoshi, which is a very small part of Bitcoin. Right, so those are the functions. I've copied and pasted those shamelessly from WebLN guide. And I was struggling, and I'm struggling to do it mainly because of this WebLN.enable. I don't know, I went around in circles with different. I tried Chromium on Linux, I tried Firefox, I tried Brave, and I installed Opera. I actually really like Opera, but that's another story. And then in the end, I started. I'll show you what you can do if you go into the console. Oh wow. No, I need to show you the console for my page. I need the link from my HTTP server. There we go. So that's the page. I'll just show you the console. So in the console, no errors. That's amazing. I was getting loads of errors, and basically the errors were saying WebLN's not enabled. I think I'm pretty sure all the people I've been seeing demo it on YouTube. I think most of them have got Safari, but don't worry about that. That's their site, not mine. Getting started. So if you come here to WebLN guide, get started. The first thing you want to do is browsers with WebLN. So this is all about WebLN. I know I've talked about Satoshis and Bitcoin, but really the programming side of this is WebLN. WebLN with JavaScript, because that is what is going to allow you to build a web page, which will then allow you to receive payment from visitors, which will then allow you to offer your LangChain Python backend to them as a service and make a product or a business or do some cool can I swear? You know what I was going to say. Right, so installation. Browsers with WebLN capabilities provide APIs using a global JavaScript variable, window.webln. It can be used to interact with the connected Bitcoin Lightning wallet. The Bitcoin Lightning wallet is Alby, which I've shown you. So Alby is the extension which you can install on your browser. So for users, all the users around the world, they can either install Alby on their Android phone, their Apple phone, or whatever it's called. So they have that wallet installed. So all of the people visiting your website will all have Alby, which is the wallet. Your code will have window.webln WebLN in it, which is what I've just shown you here, window.webln. So most of these commands are using window.webln, and then .getinfo, .keysend, .something or other. So that's effectively the class, and then that's the method. Right. So detecting WebLN supports. Before you start using WebLN, you need to check for browser support by checking if the variable window.webln is defined. What they suggest, or what I've seen them do, is if you take that code, so if you take that code and then you can put it in, I need to go, I'll do this in Opera, so got so many tabs open there now, right. It doesn't actually matter, so I could just do, I could have done it on the one I was on. Let's do this. So if you do inspect element, just to bring up the console, go to the console, and then you can't do right click paste. You have to do, okay, paste in that. I don't actually know what this is. I'm thinking this will work. Yeah, that's what you want to see. So see this? So this is what I was initially struggling with, and I still don't know even now if it was something I was doing wrong, or you know, when you keep trying more and more things and you eventually just get more and more flustered, and then eventually when it works, you don't know which of those things that you did is actually what made it work. So if you're going to be developing something like this from scratch, probably I would say have like a vanilla machine or a vanilla build or even a VM, and then you can be doubly sure that your browser works straight out of the box. Because now I've done bits and pieces of meddling around, I don't actually know that a brand new Linux laptop with Opera browser, I don't know if this WebLN would actually work. As I say, you're probably better off testing it, but obviously you would test it if you're going to be releasing it. Right, so the index HTML's got those two buttons on. So one is get info and the other one is key send, and they are the get info and key send. They're the methods of the window.webln class. So let's do a demo, because that's the whole point of this video, really. So if I do right click, open another browser, this is where I choose Opera. So this is the screen you briefly saw just now. And I'm going to click get info, and we should see some confetti. And no WebLN available. That's because I've opened it from within VS Code. So yeah, that's another tip. Don't try and test from within VS Code. That's why I installed what's it called? HTTP-server with npm. So click on the link here. Now try it, and it works. So that's a really good tip. And if I sat through an hour of some bloke in a t-shirt and sunglasses talking, ranting about the financial system, then I would be like thinking, oh, what a waste of time. But if I then found this out, I'd be so happy, because most of the people on YouTube are probably really clever, and they're probably working for getting really high paid salaries. I'm not either of those two. I don't fall into either of those two categories without giving too much away. So I'm just like a bloke who just, what's it, lone wolf coder, lone wolf. So I just kind of do stuff by myself. So I haven't got a 1,500 quid MacBook. I've got like a 6-year-old old black laptop that I deleted Windows from and put Linux Mint on. So where was I going with this? Yeah, so all these people with Apple laptops and all the latest versions of everything and loads of money, everything probably does work for them. But if you're like me and you're just trying to make ends meet and you just want to get stuff working, then that's a really good tip, because I don't think there's many videos out there on YouTube where you would see somebody trying to load the page in the VS Code, failing, and then maybe they would. I guess probably if you're a proper developer, you would just run HTTP-server. I think maybe it was just me trying to be kind of, I don't know, lazy, just right clicking and then. So tip of the day is don't do this. don't do right click on the HTML file and try and test it from within VS Code. You could also use the live server, but I don't like using that because it's just. I prefer just to see what's going on in terminal. Right. So we now know that the confetti works. Because the confetti works, that means that we know that WebLN works. Version is RB, supports Lightning, get info, key send. So the WebLN framework module, whatever, gives you these options, which is get info, key send, make invoice, send payments, sign message. So this is still work in progress for me, but the one thing I have got working, which I want to just demonstrate before I wrap this up, is key send. So key send is the second method. So I'll probably do another video later on in the week where I test out these other ones. But just for today, I was so pleased that I got this one working and this one working that I'm about to show you. I just wanted to record it and just kind of capture my progress, also for my sake. So get info was up here, which was that button. Key send is this second button, so I'm going to click that. And right, this is the really important thing. So imagine you were on a website and the website had, it wouldn't have webln.keysend brackets on it. It would probably say, listen to podcast, or so that's one of the examples that I'm commonly seeing is people with podcasts, rather than go on Spotify or YouTube and give them money and rely on the advertising income, which as soon as you go onto it, you use someone else's platform, they're taking a big cut of the creator's money. With this, you could run, as long as you've got like access to your own server or something, you could run your podcasts. Podcasts and streaming are good because there's a time element. So as time goes by, so every 15 minutes, this is programmable to time out. So you could pay 15 minutes, you could pay a few Satoshis, which is say 3p. You pay 3p and then you get to listen to 15 minutes of a podcast of, say, your favorite musician. After 15 minutes, it would then maybe give you like a 20-second countdown. It says you need to add more credit. Then you click this again, and then you add more credit. You send. I'll show you this, right? So I'm going to send 1 Satoshi to. Here you've got remember and set a budget. So what you can do, rather than send 1 Satoshi every 5 minutes, you could set a budget of, say, 100 Satoshis, and then that would then effectively transfer enough credit from your wallet, which you've added funds to, from your phone or from their website. When I say there, I mean whichever Lightning wallet you use. I mean, typically a wallet is on your phone because it does all the QR code stuff, but you could have a wallet. Well, effectively the wallet. I've got 2 wallets. So I've got Wallet of Satoshi, which is on my phone, which is what the Lightning, so the Satoshis go to when I read stuff on kind of the Bitcoin websites, and I get more and more Satoshis. And then to get the credit onto getalby, which is another Lightning wallet provider, I actually just sent money from here to there to getalby. And then if I was going to be in the future, when more people were doing streaming and other bits and pieces, offering services with the micropayments, such as projects that use LangChain with Python and OpenAI, and then you want to use, say if you wanted to use somebody's website that was doing something really clever with OpenAI with some backend Python code, then you would have to buy credits because it's costing them money to use tokens with. So you see, it's like a chain. So if I just click confirm, I might have timed out because I've been talking too long, but if it does, I'll just we'll click that again. There we go. So I've just sent 1 Satoshi. So there's a pre-image, a payment hash. I think the pre-image is kind of, so it's like you know, like the 3-way handshake. This is like I think there's 1, 2. I think this is, so you ask for something from the far end, they send back a pre-image, then you send back and you say yeah, and then you send your Satoshi, and then they send you back confirmation with a payment hash and a pre-image. So I think it goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, I think that's, don't quote me on that. There's some good diagrams. If you go on GitHub, there's some good diagrams about the sequence of payments, and there's things called macaroons. So if you've never heard of these before, you will hear these more in the future. So you've got runes. I think runes is kind of like the truncated. I think runes is the truncated part of macaroons. Why are they called macaroons? It's because I think it's like a pun or a play on words for cookies. So macaroons are like cookies for micropayments. So obviously cookies are, I'm not going to explain cookies because my definition wouldn't be very good, but cookies are just a way of storing temporary information about data and what you're interested in. Macaroons are a temporary way of storing information about micropayments and kind of uniquely identifying, because otherwise you could end up with, you know, like with card sharing, you could end up with multiple people trying to copy and reuse the same authentication. That's why my previous video was about basic authentication. So from this, I'm then going to probably go back and keep building on authentication methods, and then try and kind of dovetail it with this topic. So what I've just done is I've just sent a payment to, send a key send payment to the node of amboss.space. So Amboss, again, they run a Lightning node, and so you've got every Lightning node sits on top of a Bitcoin node. And Bitcoin is layer 1. So Lightning sits on top of the Bitcoin node, but it's the same. It's the same. It all works with Bitcoin. Obviously, Lightning sits on top, so Lightning doesn't need to transfer the payments whenever you send your instant payments. It kind of gathers them up, a bit like running bit like having a tab at a bar. So if you're at a bar and then you go up all night and keep getting more and more drinks, you don't settle that bill until the end of the night. And that's kind of a really crude metaphor for how Lightning works. Rather than making lots and lots of transactions to the Bitcoin blockchain, you make little mini transactions with a Lightning node who then builds them all up, and then they kind of have a word with the next node who they've got like an agreement with, and then they kind of cancel out the differences at the end of the night. It's not quite like that, but that's my kind of really simplistic explanation. And again, I'm not. This is not a live stream because I'm not a good enough streamer. This is not this is not how to do things because I'm not an expert. So this is like somebody who's not good enough at streaming, somebody who's not good enough at being an expert. But this is like a real person trying to make headway and trying to teach themselves stuff. So I'm hoping that there's a lot of you in the same boat and you're still trying to learn stuff. And everything's so new now. Is that or the micro? I mean, this only came out yesterday or the day before. This L402. I mean, LangChain is only really 2 or 3 months. It's been big on YouTube. Obviously, it's been big before then, but a lot of us only kind of pick things up via YouTube and social media and stuff. So yeah, L402 is like 2 days old. LangChain is like 3 months old. ChatGPT is really what, sort of 6 months old. So all of this is so new. So that's my excuse. But also, I just wanted to show you that a mere mortal can just, in one afternoon, you can look at the documentation. You can make mistakes. It's okay to make mistakes and go wrong and almost give up. But sometimes you think, oh, I can't give up because I know that if I can just get over this little hurdle, I know that there's a lot of good ideas, opportunities, good projects, and so much cool that I can do if I can just get this one thing working. So as you see, I've got Get Info working, I've got WebLN KeySend working, and there were the other 2 more things, wasn't it? Anyway, before I lose this screen, I just want to show you. So I was on 98 sats credit, and yeah, so 6 minutes. So 6 minutes ago, that was the, and then I can actually, so the pre-image was, I think that's a bit like a token or like a bearer token. I need to kind of clarify my understanding of that. So go to open website, and that takes you to. Oh, I thought it was going to take me to Amboss. This takes me to Amboss. So what is Amboss? Amboss is one of the kind of the bigger companies that run stuff to do with Lightning nodes, and I don't really know enough about them, so just go there and have a look around. Channels. So you'll hear about channels. You hear about liquidity, sats earned. So these bigger companies, they put liquidity onto the Lightning nodes. I don't think they make a huge profit, but I think a lot of this is kind of building for the future. So you want to, these companies are kind of thinking ahead, and if you can get a big market share now, then that's going to stand. Like River Financial, and it's about getting your name out there. So River Financial, they might not be making any money from, they're making 0.001% on each Lightning transaction. Excuse me, but it's getting their name out there. And then River Financial, I don't know if they're miners, but they obviously are an exchange and they're a really well respected one. So it's good for kind of, I would say, what is it called, brand awareness or something. So River Financial, buy, sell, mine Bitcoin. So they're like one of the big names, and I think it's fair to say that they are very secure, and I think they are Bitcoin only. Yeah. So again, crypto is. I'm not even going to say the word, but crypto is. Just don't even say that word. Bitcoin is just a commodity. It's robust. The exahash now is something like 500 exahash now, which so that's got more compute power than any other kind of organization in the world. 100% reserve custody, so they don't lend. So if you know anything about traditional banking, there's a thing called rehypothecation. So a bank, if a bank might be lending out £100, but typically it'll only have about 6, 8, £10 in actual funds. So if you give £10 to, say I start up a bank from brand new, somebody says, here we go, it's £10, can I save it with you? I'll say, yeah, that's cool. Then I'm allowed to go and lend £10 on paper to 10 other people. which is why you get bank runs. So this is full reserve custody with River. So you will notice that many of the I don't know if you've heard of, there's a bank, or Caitlin Long in America was trying to start a bank with even more than 100% full reserve. So if she was lending out £100, she actually had £108. It's going to have £108 in reserves. Just think about that for a moment. So a normal bank might have £8 and they lend out 100. She was going to have £108 of funds, and she was only going to lend out 100. So um, I think because that was seen as I don't know, but very clever lady, and she got turned down because I think it was probably a threat. Who knows? So River, yeah, so River are one of the names, and again, I think it's probably helps with kind of like name awareness and everything. And if you get in at the start on some of these things, you don't always need to make a fortune. You get the market share, and then eventually, if they end up with like running a third of the Lightning nodes in the world or whatever, then you know, the more customers you got, the less you need to make, and it's just good for business. And if you market share is always good, even if you're not making a fortune out of every customer, as long as you've got the big market share, then yeah, that keeps you in bread and butter or sandwiches, or keeps you in food. So some of these have got quite. So if you're familiar with Bitcoin, it's kind of all come out of like the cypherpunk movement, and that's kind of what I like about it. So if you look at some of these names, they're not quite as kind of some of them are quite was it irreverent. So Bcash is trash. So before it forked, well, after it forked, like the black sheep or the Bitcoin forked, and then obviously the current Bitcoin as we know it is very robust, lots of good things. But one of the forks called itself Bcash, and it's virtually gone to zero. So that's one of the Bitcoin channels calling itself Bcash is trash. So you can see kind of by like the naming, people using full stops, brackets, emojis, underscores. Yeah, it's not all. It's kind of I don't know the word, but it's all kind of it's not free for all because there's obviously very well defined rules in the code. But there's it's everything's so new and growing so quickly. That's the great thing. There's just so much opportunity. So let me get back to the code and just I can wrap this up in a second, but let's just refresh that page, and I'll just show you if I just bring that down here. Always on top. If we just refresh that page, so that's all good. Now if we do get info, we'll get the confetti again, and that's gone off. And basically, it's that bit of code that goes off and gets the methods. So we've seen get info, we've seen key send. So in a future video, we'll look at make invoice, we'll look at send payment and sign message. We've already actually signed message because send a payment because we did this. So if I wonder if I can just, will that stay? What I want that to stay on top. Sorry. In. Let me just, right, I'm going to click this and send another one Satoshi. No, it doesn't snap, but send another one Satoshi. I would actually want to send more because this is also good and so worth helping. Remember and set a budget. Okay, so you may set a balance to not be asked for confirmation on payments until it is exhausted. Okay, so if I set this as 10, budget, then Oh, this isn't. Is it because I've zoomed in so much? Yeah, sorry. It's because I've zoomed in to make the video. And then I've got a little pop-up there which you didn't see, but so you go. I've sent that a few seconds ago, and the allowance is 1 of 10 sats used. So now I've got a further 9 that I can send. So if I run this again, I'm expecting. I need to refresh. And it's I don't know if you heard it ping. So that's just sent it without me needing to confirm. Yeah, there we go. So now I've used 2 of 10. So the second time I ran it, it didn't ask for confirmation, and that's because I set the limit at 10 Satoshi. So I could actually send 10 without having to do any further kind of yes, no, are you sure, and all that. So getting back to the videos and the streaming, if you're streaming a podcast, for instance, and that's kind of what some of the idea, gaming, you can kind of, I'm not endorsing kind of poker or roulette or anything, but so with podcasts, you could have chess. You could play against somebody else for chess, and then whoever wins gets the Satoshis. Oh, there we go. Host live podcasts and earn sats. There's another one I just saw, which was earn sats for accomplishing tasks, crowdfunding projects with bit. So if you want to crowdfund somebody, there's a site called Geyser. I don't know what this is. I've never seen this before, but about to find out. So it's like GoFundMe, I guess, but you're actually paying in Bitcoin. These projects are amazing. I mean, that's Premier Bitcoin. That's educating kids in, I think, in El Salvador, and that's an amazing thing. I mean, they might not have much money, but they're going to be so knowledgeable and able to participate in, obviously, the world which they wouldn't otherwise have been able to do. Funding a documentary, music. Let's just see what this is. So it's like GoFundMe, but you're actually paying for it with Satoshis. So making sick Bitcoin music is one of a kind and evergreen. Wow, that's Satoshis, by the way. So that's not. If you convert that, that's probably about. That's probably about £140 or about $150, I think. Don't quote me on that. So there's a lot of like it's just really cool because it's kind of like cypherpunk, people just with the kind of FU attitude and just I'm gonna do stuff because I can and you can't stop me. That's kind of the whole ethos, and that's why it's so cool, and that's why I like it. And it's just such a good opportunity for writing code and the examples, and everybody's trying to help this. So not people aren't just trying to make a fortune and close everything over. And even with ChatGPT, ultimately there are other language models, and part of the problem is actually the hardware. You need NVIDIA GPUs and all that. So it's not just that OpenAI have written the best large language model as at the moment as we know it. It's more that even to run one of the alternative language models, you do need you can run like the Colab notebook, but even to run that with the good performance and the GPU, then you have to pay to Colab, which is Google. So whichever way you do it, to run a large language model, because they have got, for instance, if we go to Hugging Face, you might have seen this in my other videos, but you can see how much data these models have been trained on, and it's kind of a necessary evil. I expect probably like you, it's not how you would want things to be, but just the very nature of these models means that they are huge, and they have to run on expensive hardware. And what can you do? I mean, there are projects you can do without relying on large language models. For instance, the Quadrant project, which I did, that was semantic similarity search, and I used a Hugging Face model for that, which was only about 4 gig. And it ran fine, and that was for doing the encoding. And once the encoding was done, I could then transfer that into a vector database, and then using transformers with PyTorch, and also the Quadrant client, I could then make the queries, and all that ran fine, no problem. So again, this is called small. If we too big, I'm not used to seeing it on this size. A model card. Brain's gone. It's too much talking. Some way you can find out the training data and everything, and you can see the size of the data sets. That Orca is one that's made a lot of news this week as well. So yeah, there you go. Size of the auto-generated, so nearly 3 million rows. You can actually see the data that these models were trained on as well. I think dataset viewer. Table contains all the rows paginated with groups of hundreds. Go to dataset viewer. I've not done this. Yeah, so you can actually look at the training data, which I know there's sort of controversy about the biases in the training data. So yeah, it's worth knowing about. Again, solution pricing. So again, even the Hugging Face models, which are free, community support. Yeah, that's not too bad. But again, this all comes back to the micropayments. So the way I see it is it's a necessary evil. If you have a really good idea, well, to be honest, if you want to do anything with websites or whatever, you're always going to need to pay for hosting, and you're always going to have to buy a domain name. So it's just that, and to be honest, those are recurring costs, because really, okay, so domain name you might buy once a year, but hosting you would pay monthly anyway. So it's just like an extension of having to pay hosting. And it's not like all of these models came from educational establishments paid for by our taxes. They did come from companies who incurred their own costs to buy all the hardware and pay all the staff. So yeah, I'm not sticking up for big companies, by the way, but it's just necessary evil. And I think as long as there's some competition, and it that was what Elon Musk said. Again, I've got no opinion on him really, but what he said was Larry, whatever his name, had no conscience about potential of what AI could do, and basically Google were going to become the single biggest and dominant player. So 2015, Elon Musk hired somebody to start up Open AI, I believe, because he thought there needed to be some competition. But as it turns out, the company that he kind of co-founded ended up then becoming closed source, then made the biggest large language model, and then has now got the potential to be the dominant one. So yeah, but there are so many other models, and plenty of other models doing different things. So I think as long as there's some competition, then things are sort of okay. $0.05 per hour. So again, these costs, if you build a project, you're incurring costs, and people who visit your site, they could either click on Google AdSense, or they could buy you a coffee, or they could send you micropayments. So let's think about those three. Click on Google Ads. If somebody clicks on a Google ad and buys a laptop, Google probably make, I don't know, $50. You probably make $0.50. I don't know. That's just picking numbers out of the air. So that's not great, because Google are taking a big chunk of kind of money that could otherwise just stay between you and the other person. So instead of having 3 people involved, by using micropayments as just the 2 people involved, a bit like I said all this earlier, didn't I? But so micropayments. So if we forget about Google Ads, park that just leaves us with buy me a coffee or micropayments. No, buy me a coffee, I think they take a cut, and Patreon, they take a cut. And depending on what country you're in, you got the then you've got the exchange rates. So if I'm in the UK and somebody from, say, I don't know, Turkey wants to send me a tip, that's quite expensive for them. Because if the exchange rates are moving about all over the place, then they might think they're just sort of sending me a pound, and it's really costing them £3 or whatever. But so with Buy Me a Coffee, Patreon, again, some other companies making, 5, 10, 8%, whatever. So AdSense, no. Patreon, Buy Me a Coffee, okay, but not great. Micropayments, the commission on, let's look up, rather than me just rabbiting on about this, what is the charge percentage on a Lightning? I don't think it's hard and fast, because different nodes have different charges. But okay, right, let's just take this in for a moment. Lightning Network, 10,000 times cheaper than Visa and MasterCard, reveals latest data. Let's just think about that. 10,000 times cheaper. The median fee rate, or the fee charged per Bitcoin sent across the Lightning Network, is currently 3,000 Satoshis, which is equivalent to, so that's for 1 Bitcoin. So that's like $30,000. And so yeah, 84 cents, then $28,000, which comes, so actually they're talking about Lightning and then they're talking about Bitcoin Network, but either way, yeah, 1 ppm. So for every million Satoshis you move, there's a 1 Satoshi fee, and this is just phenomenal. Yeah, Visa is what, 2.5%, 3%, whatever. If you go on holiday and you buy like or you buy some euros, you'd probably buy like you only have to buy a minimum number, so you buy 300 euros, and then there's like a 3% charge. So already, you thought you bought £300 worth of euros, but you'll end up with £290 even before you've got started going shopping or gone to the bar. With this, it's 0.00029, so you could change £300 worth of euros, and you'd still have £299 worth of euro, 299 euros, and then 99 cents or whatever. The charges on this are just unbelievably low, and the best way to think of this is what voice over IP has done to the traditional landline. 10, 15 years ago, maybe if you're young, you might not remember this, but 10, 15, 20 years ago, you had a landline and you paid maybe 10, 12 just to rent pounds, or probably 15, I don't know what it was in the US, say £12 per month just to rent that line. And even if you didn't make any calls, you still had to pay £12 a month just for that line. And then calls were quite often 10p a minute. So abroad, it was like £1 a minute. So to call Australia for actually, I know this from I had a friend who went to America, and she called me one night, and I know it's and hotels were even worse for this. Hotels used to really whack on a massive surcharge. But she called me from Chicago. I was in England. She was on the phone for, I think it was about 15, 20 minutes. Um, and it got added onto her room. And then that obviously got charged to her company because she was there on business. About 2 weeks later, her boss said that you made some phone calls in America. That's cost us £100. Um, so yeah, Bitcoin and Lightning are going to do for payments what the analog, the old-fashioned copper phone line and the landline. It's called landline in the UK. I don't know what it's called around the rest of the world. Let's just type this. What did a phone call to Australia cost from the UK in 2000? I don't know if it's gonna 2013. Okay, we'll look at that. So prices in euros. So 10 minutes. So 10 minutes cost. Yeah, okay. So that in yeah, so in 2010, so we're only talking about 13 years ago, it cost £2 or €2, almost the same. So let's say £2, $2, whatever. So $2 for 10 minutes. Yeah, but if you're in a hotel, then it was obviously to say it's they whack on a massive surcharge. But now, if you're in a hotel, you don't have to use the hotel phone. You just use your phone and with WhatsApp, and it's all free. So it's demonetized. Voice over IP has demonetized landlines and international calls. Bitcoin and Lightning will demonetize Visa, MasterCard. It'll demonetize overseas remittances. So if you come from the Philippines or Mexico or El Salvador, and your family or your dad or your brother or your mum go to work in America and they earn rubbish money, but it still seems like a lot because the discrepancy in currencies, because the dollar's backed by guns, um, then I think it's about 10%, 8 or 10% of that gets. So if they earn £100, if they earn £100 for being working in a bar or whatever in America, then they want to go. They have to get a bus to go in person to Western Union or whatever they're called, money transfer. They get charged. I think it's 10%. It might even be more. So that £100 that they earned in that week, and they want to send it back to their family, only £90 will get transferred because of all the commission and the fees. You've just seen what Lightning would be, 0.0029%. So they'll send back £99, 99 pence. So it's unbelievable the power of this and what it's going to be doing in the future. So this is so amazing because it's only since well, with the LangChain side of things, I know LangChain's probably not going to help um, the remittance side of things, but just getting back to L402 Lightning, I think for once I'm actually up. At almost level with the new things. So yeah, if you want to read more about it, lightning.engineering. There you go, macaroons. We've talked about macaroons, L402. Lightning API keys macaroons, blah, blah, blah. Macaroons allow the separation of issuance, permissioning, and validation, allow the separation of issuance and payment. In practice, a service can hand out macaroons together with Lightning Network invoices to the potential customers, but does not need to validate specifically whether these invoices have been paid. The mere cryptographic validity of the macaroon guarantees that the payer has obtained the pre-image through their payment. I think that probably needs a diagram. I don't know if that is one. It's all there, so it's no point me making a video where I'm just scrolling through stuff and talking about it, but I've probably said enough already. Hopefully I've shown you how, just to summarize, I've shown you how you can, with not very much code at all. So what's that? 50 lines of JavaScript, including the spaces, and 30 lines of HTML. So it's 80 lines of code. You can get something up and running which allows you to yeah, get some confetti, which allows you to make micropayments. And obviously, this micropayment would actually be me transferring some Satoshis so that I could listen to a podcast. And then the podcast wouldn't need to be on YouTube. It wouldn't need to be on a streaming platform where the platform takes a lot of the money. I keep going on about the streaming and the podcast, but it's just because that's micropayments seem like a really good way of paying every so often for something that's happening. If you think about time being horizontal, the horizontal on the graph, then obviously as time goes by, you pay a bit more. Another 10 minutes, you pay a bit more, so on. So micropayments are great for anything where there's kind of like a timeline and where you have to keep paying a bit more every so often. Or you could do what I did, and then you set a budget, and then you keep paying for it, and you keep accepting those outgoings until you hit your budget. But all of these fees are so small, and that's, although the fees are very small, if you're building a website and you've got tens of thousands of people all paying that small amount, it will at least pay for the service and the project that you're building. And then obviously when it goes viral, and then you can. It's not always all about making a fortune. It's about just helping build and support the infrastructure and spread the education for Bitcoin and just get it widely adopted. You don't need to make a fortune of building your website. Just the pure success of Bitcoin will enable, as long as you own a little bit of Bitcoin, not even a whole one, then that's your store of value. And the success of all of these projects will only make Bitcoin more sought after. It's infinitely scarce. There's only ever going to be 21 million. So because the supply is capped, the only thing that can change is the price. If you cap the supply, as demand changes and demand increases, well, then the price of it has to go up because the issuance is fixed. There will only be 21 million. I think I've probably talked way longer than I've ever done on any other videos, but I just think this is really significant. Alt Fun, subscribe, 531 subscribers. Within a year, they probably will be at 10,000, or I hope they will, because the other thing, if you go on to their resources, there's the links here, you can spin up a Replit, and then you can experiment as if you are on a Lightning node, and you can actually test Python code. So let me just show you if I've still got that open, because there's probably been a bit thin on Python. I'm sorry about that, but it will all link up because these micropayments link up with LangChain, and LangChain is written and uses Python, which will then work with ChatGPT and OpenAI. So Python can't always just do everything in isolation. It needs to link up. And here I'm linking Python with JavaScript, and I'm linking it with WebLN, and I'm linking it with Satoshis and Bitcoin, and you get the idea. So what I've got running here, these replits tend to go to sleep if you don't. Is it still running? No. So it's, you see the green. If I run it, it should. Will it start? Yeah. So it's just kind of it's gone to sleep. So it's just starting itself up again now, and it's starting up something called Sauron, which is basically it's like a proxy for what would be your local Lightning node, but it's actually proxying your Replit. It's proxying it to somebody else's Lightning node, so it's perfectly fine for writing code with. But you wouldn't want to, make enormous transactions of life-changing amounts of money over this. So yeah, that's the Lightning node running in a Replit. And again, it's all if you watch not this one, but if you watch that site, the BitBolt one I just showed you, you can get the link to this Replit, and then you can clone the Replit, and then you have your own version. And then this Replit is looking at using plugins for Lightning. So now you know what Lightning is, you can write plugins for it to do different things. If we go back to the start, so build Sauron and Explorer plugin for your core Lightning node. And it kind of builds, it explains why this is good, because it saves you having to have a Raspberry Pi. It saves you having to have 600 gig of hard drive space to set up your full node. I mean, a 600 gig of hard drive space on it, you buy a 1 terabyte drive now for maybe 50, 60 quid. But even that, if I was 10 years old and I was getting into computers, I wouldn't probably have the money or the wherewithal to do that. So it's just allowing everybody to start doing code. And again, this is Python. So how core Lightning plugins work? This is Python code, and that's the daemon which you need to get up and running. You need to, and then you go. These are the Bitcoin commands: get chain info, get block height, send raw transaction, get TX output, estimate fees. And this is Python code. So you're fetching a URL, you're setting up some methods. You've got a decorator there which works with the init function. And you've basically got the empty functions which you then can put your code in and do stuff. This is all very new to me, and I'm hoping to work on some of this and try and understand it and get like a MVP, minimum viable product, up and running. But yeah, beat me to it. Come on here, get a Replit, start writing some code, and yeah, Python. So you might have thought, oh, Python, or like I did, especially when I read this, I was looking in the back and thinking, well, okay, but Bitcoin core's all written in C++, obviously because it's compiled and fast and so on. I was thinking, well, what can I really do with Python with Bitcoin? And it really was just generating new addresses and querying a full node with Python to get the latest transactions, a bit like you saw here. But the benefit here is this has got much more opportunity because the micropayments are more frequent. So people who are going to buy Bitcoin probably buy part of a Bitcoin, say once a month when they get paid, or maybe every day, but they would do all that through an exchange. Whereas, so that's all kind of with an exchange, and all that's kind of just all taken care of, and it's all the opportunities to create stuff with that aren't so much. But with Lightning, you're saying then you've got Nostr, which is like the open source version of Twitter. You can send, if you chatting to somebody on Nostr and you like them or they help you. For instance, some of my Satoshis were from helping somebody over Nostr, and I was helping them to do some code with Python, and then they just transferred me some credit with because they had my Lightning address. And you might think, oh, what's the benefit in just having a few 10 or 20 quids of Satoshis? But it allows you to then work in like a circular economy. So then you can make micropayments to listen to a podcast, or it allows you to, you could pay somebody on Fiverr to make you some logos or make you an animation for your website. And then your website can collect micropayments. And eventually, if you did a really popular one, it will all snowball. And it will, the one, apart from making money, what it allows you to do is actually build a project. You can build a project safe in the knowing that your tokens won't get used up for your API subscription, because you need to use OpenAI because you want to write something with LangChain that does something really cool with AI. But if you just make it open, people are going to rinse it and they're going to take all. It's going to you're going to have no money left. A bit like I said earlier. So yeah, I probably started to repeat myself now, and yeah, I need to go and have a lie down in a darkened room. I think and my brain is starting to get hot. You know, like yeah, you know, like your phone when you've left it on charge too long and it starts to get warm. I think my brain's doing that. So also Replit. So yeah, Replit. If you, I'll just before we go, I'll just try and find that one again. Yeah, so Bolt Fund. So if you go on, if you subscribe to Bolt Fund, Lightning address, site address, lightningaddress.com. That's what we saw earlier. Yeah. So somewhere, if you go to Bolt Fund, subscribe, and then on their recent videos, I think it was the one from 2 days ago, actually. It's either that one or the other one. If you look at all their recent videos, so early July 2023, yeah, so Cody Lowe, he's the one who set up this Replit, and the Replit is really, really well set up and really good. So, and the notes for it are really, really good as well. But you could just set up a Replit and just do Python stuff anyway. I mean, here we go. I don't think Vim's installed actually, but I know I could do it over here. So just create a new file and call it my code. It doesn't have to be, obviously with a Replit, it doesn't have to be related to Bitcoin or Lightning or whatever. So I don't think I actually made that, but yeah, you get the idea. So that's script 2. That was just me messing about. All these scripts. The original script is just called script.py, but yeah, you can just keep going on making more and more files. Let's just call it hello world.py. There we go. And then, so it's quite nice. I mean, it's it just lets you do stuff with kind of everything already in place for you. So then I can go and run. So what you just saw on the left here, under files, there you go. Oh, there you see there's hello world there. So that file I made in the left in the file manager, then I could edit it here in this screen here. And then I can actually run it from, I can't remember if I think you can just put Python. I don't think you have to put Python 3. Yeah, there you go. So yeah, Replit. So even if you're not interested in Lightning payments, you at least now know what an error 402 is, or 402 response status code is. You know that you can use HTTP-server with npm rather than trying to run stuff from within VS Code if you're trying to use test stuff locally, web pages locally. You can now have a email address that you can send money to. You know that the charges for Lightning payments are absolutely minuscule. Micropayments, you'll hear lots about that from now on, probably. It's only going to become more of a thing. Yeah, so just go off and experiment. That's what I'm going to be doing. So yeah, I hope you've enjoyed this not live stream by a not expert. I'm just a mere mortal learning stuff and passing on just little bits that I've picked up. And you know, if any of this is interesting, add some comments, ask me questions, share stuff that you know, share stuff that I've got wrong. Say don't trust, verify. So anything that I've said, you might want to just go away and verify, find out for yourself. Don't trust, verify. Thank you. I'll see you soon.